everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of Winter is Coming Live, the official after show of Game of Thrones for winteriscoming.net, brought to you by Entertainment Weekly. We are here at the stream.tv and absolutely, totally excited to be talking about the Season 5 premiere of Game of Thrones. My name is Adam Rady, and I will be your bearded host today. To my left sits ALISON HAISLIP, who you will recognize from The Morning After, The Voice, G4, amongst many, many more. To my right sits XAVIER BRINKMAN, who you will recognize from after shows for True Blood as well as American Horror Story. So, Game of Thrones happened. It's a lot to digest. We are here to help you do just that. So to start, we are going to jump right into the flashback. Because holy crap, there's a flashback in Game of Thrones.
Starts the whole season.
Starts the whole season. We've never had a flashback before, and it's a Cersei flashback. And the actress that got to play Cersei.
I knew who she was, because obviously when the show starts, you don't realize that it's a flashback right away. You just think you're walking into some scene with two girls you've never seen before. And the second that little blonde girl turned her head on her friend, I was like, oh, that's young Cersei.
It was the
Nailed
turn.
it.
It was the turn for me when she like takes her hands and she's like, you don't have my father to be afraid of.
And then she holds the girl's hand walking off.
Yeah,
and you're like,
absolutely.
Oh, man.
They did a very good job. That was great.
Casting, nice job casting.
Hats off to you, casting. So then they're headed to the witch's cabin, and yeah, it's a witch's cabin in Game of Thrones because she's a witch, Cersei even says so, and she's got a cabin.
And she's surprisingly hot for a witch. When they first put her on camera, I was like, oh, that's not a witch I was expecting. You know, witches are normally like 1,000 years old and
she was
warty.
hot, but she wasn't bad looking for a witch.
Right,
She was,
Can we negotiate?
Yes,
she was tempting. Like a seductress.
Yes,
if you will.
yeah.
All right,
Okay, and then what she did, by the way, was she told the future, or did she tell the future? Because
she did.
think she did. XAVIER, do you think?
I mean, it's like so far what she's done is matched up. Like she said, the king has. She didn't say that you'll have the kids together,
right?
Because the king had like 20 bastards with.
Remember when they killed all the bastards?
He said the king will have 20 kids and you'll have 3. He never said you both. Like she never said that they'll both have it together. So that was on point, right?
Absolutely. I thought it was really interesting how at the end of it, the last thing she said was, they were all wear crowns of gold, and they were all wear shrouds of gold, meaning they're all gonna die as well.
Is that what that meant? I was gonna ask you guys.
Yes. I believe that's what it meant.
I was thinking that that's what that meant as well, because does that mean, because if she's right, and she is predicting the future, which by all means it certainly seems like she is.
This is Game of Thrones here. A witch knows the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Which knows the future.
One thing. Let's get one thing straight.
And then, I have to think that what is happening is that are all 3 kids doomed?
Yeah.
Because we know one's already doomed. We know Joffrey's gone.
Yeah.
So now does that mean Tommen and Myrcella?
I guess.
I mean, they've got to be, right? Nothing happy ever happens to the Lannisters.
Well,
what good things happen to the Lannisters?
Sure. Yeah.
I think less good things could happen to Cersei Lannister and we'd all be happy.
That's true. Although, I got to be honest, like, Cersei's one of those characters that, even though she does terrible things, they do such a good job of giving her the perfect motivation to do it all.
She has a perfect motivation.
Yeah.
You absolutely buy her, especially, after Joffrey's death. And now with, her 2 kids that she's worried about, Myrcella, who she has no contact with and is in Dorne, and she's worried about. And then, of course, we see Cersei in this episode after the flashback, immediately following it, and we can see her worrying about things as she passes Marjorie going up the stairs towards the Sept.
Sure.
And I just think that her motivations, like you said, have played out really well to bring her as a fully rounded character.
Sure.
They're spot on.
Sure. I mean, it's like she's this cold-hearted bitch, but I mean, her motivation is always with family and her kids. Like, it sort of brings out the human in her a little bit that you can kind of relate to her, even though you don't really want to.
And speaking of family, now that Tywin's dead, Jaime and Cersei meet up in the Sept, or Jaime's already there.
I was like, are we going to have another sexy time scene over a dead family member?
That's absolutely what she said, too. While we're watching it, she's like, are they totally going to bone at another...
Hey, it didn't stop them over their dead kid, all right? I was ready for it. I was prepped. It's the first episode of the season.
We need controversy.
We're going to come in with a bang.
We're coming with a bang. There we go. Absolutely. But no, that scene with Jaime was so interesting to me because he's the one that's pointing out there are the they.
Yes.
And they are our enemies.
Sure.
And she's very much, because this is the first time we've seen Cersei interacting with Jaime after Jaime left let Tyrion out.
Yeah.
Right.
And
he
he didn't deny at all that he didn't let Tyrion
Tyrion
go. She just said, and did you let him go? And he like totally gave it away that he did. I mean,
well, he can't lie to her. That's his weakness. She is his weakness.
I mean,
you know?
And what's she gonna do to him for that? Because is she gonna get revenge? What's she gonna do? Cersei doesn't seem like the type of chick that's gonna let that go, right?
Oh, absolutely not. And that's why I find this scene really interesting, is because this is when we're really seeing them split and diverge, and like it doesn't seem like there's going to be reconciliation between them.
Seeing as they just like at the end of last season they just come together. I mean, Cersei had been like, you know what, like, who cares what people think? Let's just let the world know. Everyone knows anyway. Let's just own it. You know?
Well, now to kind of move this forward as well in Cersei's story is once we see that scene with Jaime, a little while later in the episode we find Cersei still surrounded by mourners. There's Loras is there trying to say things. Pycelle's there, and then she interacts with two characters that we haven't seen since the second season, or thereabouts. We see Kevin Lannister, which is actually, and you love Kevin's
Good old
name.
Kevin Lannister.
You're like, oh, Kevin.
It's just they get such random names, and then it's like Kevin.
Well, it's Uncle Kev.
Although to be fair, I guess Jamie's a pretty basic name as well. So it's just like Uncle Kevin.
Yeah.
So Uncle Kev's there. And Uncle Kevin, we haven't seen since really the second season when he was meeting with Tywin in sort of the war camps when they were going over strategies. We haven't seen him in quite a while, but that's the brother of Tywin.
Sure.
And then his son, Lancel, who we last saw after the Battle of Blackwater.
Yeah, Lancel looking super trendy with his short haircut, too.
Super
I was
trendy.
like, who is this guy?
A little bit hippie now. He's got no shoes.
Yeah.
He's got
and he's just coming dropping bombs. Can we discuss the bombs that were dropped? Or did I miss something, or was that a major thing that just happened?
A major thing that happened.
Yeah.
So tell us, Xavier,
pretty much Lancel just came in and completely pointed out the fact that Cersei set up Robert Baratheon's killing.
Right, like it had only been implied for the most part.
It had absolutely been implied, but it never.
So he's like, we had our unnatural relations. Damn straight, that's hilarious.
Can you sleep with anyone
I know.
you're not
and then
related to?
he goes, and then the wine. I'm surprised Cersei has even let him live, knowing that he knows the truth.
Right.
That we all know now. So I was like, holy shit, is that a massive bomb that was just dropped, or did I miss something else? Because that's huge, right?
Absolutely huge.
I think Cersei had him wrapped around her little finger so much there was no reason to knock him off. But at this point, now that he's apparently reformed and a sparrow and all this kind of stuff, maybe there's a threat there. Well, he's obviously blatantly saying this stuff out loud to her. Who else is he going to say it out loud to?
Sure.
Absolutely. And so with that bomb that you've pointed out, we want to know from the fans out there. We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear your comments, questions, suggestions, all through the show. But specific to this, we want to hear you use the hashtag WIC. So if you use the hashtag WIC, we are going to see you guys' tweets. We're going to be able to answer your questions, your comments, not just on this subject, but so many more. And it's time now for us to talk about, specific to that Jaime-Cersei scene, now jumping back a little bit, they were talking about Tyrion and the fact that Jaime had let Tyrion out. And Tyrion now has actually been trapped in a box. So to me, it was really awesome seeing the point of view of Tyrion.
Oh, I actually thought that as well. I was like, that was really cool camera work going through the
that was great through the whole, and even how what's our perception of time here? So obviously he had enough time to grow a massive beard. A little bigger than yours, bro. Sorry.
He strikes. He cuts deep.
And also that he was like, I was like pushing through my air hole, which also means that he was in there for a fair time, where he had to organize some way of getting out of a box.
Well, what I love.
So that could only mean one thing: that he was in there for quite a while.
Well, what I love is you've pointed out the strategy, but the cinematography to that is the point that we've drawn attention to these air holes. And then we come back to it in the conversation where he's like, "Do you know what it's like to have to do that?" And then of course Varys' rebuttal is like, "Do you know what it's like to have to pick it up after you've done that?"
I'm actually really curious as to how Varys got out of this city, because with the death of Tywin, don't you think they would have locked that stuff down? And Cersei was already super suspicious and wary of him. The fact that he was able to get out without being put in a box.
Well, we know that
really
there were like tunnels and unknown sort of secret areas in the Red Keep. So it's not unreasonable that they got out of the Red Keep, but getting out of the city then is a whole other trick.
Right.
So, and everyone knows 100% that Varys has been involved. Like, there's no denying
Well, I
that,
think at this point they're sort of, it has to be implied. The same day that Tyrion escapes, Varys is gone from King's
Landing. I would love to know his motivation behind taking a risk like that.
That's what I was just gonna say, because Varys is like he's such a crafty manipulator, and all of a sudden it just seems like all of his motivation is for like crown and country. Like all he wants is a better country. But that I cannot believe that that is his only reason. Like, he must be getting something out of this.
Well, now something that I want to bring attention to is that they are at Illyrio's palace.
Yes.
And Illyrio, they're in Pentos. Obviously, they've traveled. So again, a long time to grow the beard, and I respect
Across the narrow sea, it must be that narrow.
Yeah, super narrow.
Still might take a while to get across.
Weekend trip. Yeah. So they're in Pentos. They're at Illyrio's palace, and Illyrio, for those of you that may or may not remember, we haven't seen him since season 1.
I know.
So we're kind of getting a lot of revisiting of old folks.
Well,
Like the old folks home.
This is where we first met Daenerys and her brother in season 1.
Illyrio's the guy who set the whole thing up. Right. Viserys worked out with Illyrio to sell Daenerys into basically this arranged marriage with Khal Drogo. Sure. And he's actually the one that gave her the eggs as well. So Illyrio's sort of crucial behind this, and we discover, in terms of the motivation you guys were talking about, is that Varys is sort of all king, and it's all for the good of the land. But he's basically saying in this conversation, I have been working with Illyrio for years.
Yes. So who is Illyrio? Is really what it boils down to.
Yeah. What is this? Are there more people as part of this plan?
I mean, and even and then talking about like him saying, it doesn't have to be him. He goes, why? What did he say? What was the line?
Oh, it was so great.
Yeah, who's
good luck finding him.
Yeah,
Who
good luck
said
finding
anything
him.
about it being
exactly.
him?
So obviously,
because we're talking about the mother of dragons.
Yeah, obviously there's some tie, right? And I doubt that Varys would be just saying her name off the top of his head. There's, like, he's a calculated character.
Yeah, he's been pushing for this the whole time.
Well, and what I liked about it was no longer sort of like secretive and elusive. Like, he was very clear, we're going to go see Daenerys. Like, it wasn't like, it didn't end the conversation as sort of like the trailer line of like, who said anything about her, and we cut. Like, we stayed with it, and we're like, we're going to see Daenerys. So come on
So
board.
anything, whatever it is, whatever his motivation is, he must be getting promised some form of some position
what
or whatever.
What are we going to find out?
For him to
it feels like he's the puppet master over all of this.
Yeah, or Littlefinger, but we'll get to that, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
We will absolutely. Well, speaking of Daenerys and the fact that they're going to see Daenerys, we are going to move on to be talking, but we are going to talk about Daenerys right now. And specific to Daenerys, well, the thing I found interesting was that if Game of Thrones has one thing that it's taught us, it's that you can never trust a whore, because they keep sort of lying.
Gosh.
And I know it's a terrible thing, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, that poor Unsullied White Rat, right?
White Rat.
Yeah, White Rat is sort of there. He's in the brothel.
All he wanted to do was snuggle.
Yeah.
That's all he wanted. He just wanted a good cuddle.
Who knew White Rat was a snuggler?
I know. He just wanted a good cuddle. Let some woman stroke his head and sing a song.
Did everyone? I mean, first of all, did everyone think that Grey Worm had been replaced? Because I did.
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
absolutely. Initially, when I first saw it, because they did it with Daria.
Yeah, I don't know if I could take it, but then luckily, Skinny Grey Worm came into the frame later on.
You could take it. I don't know that Allison could have taken them replacing Grey Worm.
Grey Worm is one of my favorite. Not to mention, he is beautiful. And I was going to be I was actually thinking that this guy that they might have possibly replaced him with, I was like, oh, they found another extremely handsome man to replace him with.
Anyway,
and then they just slit that guy's throat, and I got really sad.
Luckily not, yeah.
Well, specific to Grey Worm, specific to the Unsullied and Meereen and Daenerys, there's a lot to digest in this scene or series of scenes.
Yeah.
And sort of the main breakdown to it is about halfway through last season, Daenerys let everyone know that she was going to stay in Meereen and rule. And now we're finding out that ruling isn't going quite so easily.
No.
And we have this new group to contend with, the Sons of the Harpy. And Daenerys sort of mentions like, oh, they never killed before. Sure. But they sure killed now.
Yeah.
That was brutal. And you knew something was coming as they zoom in on
I actually
White
thought
Rat's.
It was like a sweet little moment.
Yeah,
I was like, oh.
It's like,
and then I saw the knife come in, and I was like, oh, no.
I saw you jump a little bit because you went, oh.
I thought it as well, like, I mean, I thought we were getting an insight into the Unsullied. It's like, all right, they don't have penises, but they have a soft side.
So that's the insight you were looking for?
I was like, this is sweet, because I was interested. I mean, I'm interested in the Unsullied, it's a crazy concept with these guys.
Right.
So you guys see the guy get his nipple cut off a couple seasons ago?
Yeah.
He didn't even flinch. Like,
I
these guys are
actually had
trained.
a moment of thinking that he was doing it to himself, because you just see the knife point come in.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and he's like created this sweet moment, and I was like, oh my God, maybe he's taking his own life because we're going to find out that the Unsullied are really unhappy with whatever is going on right now.
Well, do you guys think that Daenerys has sort of bitten off more than she can chew in Meereen?
Sure.
Like, is that?
No, but I do think that, I mean, she's the queen of dragons. She can do anything. But I do think that this is the first time she's being really put to the test of finding out what a queen is. Like, her whole life has been traveling and trying to get to a point, and she's now just decided to stop and rest somewhere and actually rule for the first time in her life, really. And so I think all of a sudden she's like, oh, this is what being a queen is.
Right. You have now mentioned a number of times, so now we have to talk about it. She's the mother of dragons.
The mother of dragons.
And Dario, who is obviously now a bedfellow. Bedfellow is a term that we use, by the way.
Really?
Now.
What's that, sorry?
Bedfellow is the term we use now, guys.
I like
But he definitely has your ear.
Absolutely.
As well as other things, but.
Go on.
It's just so funny when you, like, she's such a strong, independent woman, and it's very interesting seeing who can get her ear, who can influence her at certain times.
Sure. I mean, yeah, you're right. He mentioned, he's like, what's a queen of dragons without a dragons? Next scene, she's opening the cave. So you can
like,
tell
let
that
me get some dragons.
You can tell that he's influencing her.
Yeah, but what did you guys think that, because I totally was unsure. I was like, okay, are the dragons are they gonna go after, are they gonna be mad at her, or are they gonna be like, mommy? But you know, what were you guys thinking as she was walking in there?
First of all, the dragon's gotten quite a bit bigger since last time, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I'm having trouble with time, perception of time, how much has elapsed since last things happened. So
yeah, and I think that some people's stories maybe go further than other people's in terms of when we see them. You know, because you're trying to catch up with everybody.
Right,
And there
like
are a lot of
all
people
these
to catch up
storylines
with.
might not be simultaneous with each other.
Which is, of course, why this show exists, is to talk about all these storylines.
Yep.
Sure. Damn straight.
But I thought it was really interesting, like, when she went in to see the dragons, I didn't have any fear of her actually, like, being killed or anything. I was like, there's no way we're losing Daenerys in the first episode of season 5. But, you know, when they didn't react to her the way that she was expecting to, when she ran out and leaned up against the wall, and I just think it's so beautiful when we get these moments of vulnerability from her.
I liked it, actually.
She's so strong.
When the last time that she left the cave, she was crying. And I thought that was great. That was that was a really great moment of vulnerability for her.
Well, speaking of her specifically, not to cut everybody off, but we have obviously some fans out there.
We have fans!
We have fans, and one of those fans specifically is Holly Herman Giles, who's at HG11240.
Good job.
Anyways,
_69.
Yeah, her specific question is Khaleesi, Daenerys, going to let her dragons die, or do you think she will find a way to control them?
I got to go with the latter on that.
Yeah.
There's no way she's going to let them die. I mean, I would think worst case scenario, she sets them free.
Yeah, but is it a let them die, or will they die because of things that she's...
Oh, like, will she inadvertently
Inadvertently, because we already know Drogon's just somewhere.
Yeah,
I mean, like, I feel like they're too important to just die out. You know what I mean? And like, and also in the trailer, like, even the official poster for Game of Thrones for this season, like, the dragon is such a big feature of it. You know?
Right.
I mean,
yes, with Tyrion and the dragon. Oh, they're finally gonna meet.
But I wonder if that'll be part of it, though. To me, is what I'm thinking is, okay, we're seeing how difficult it can be to rule, and she hasn't been able to control the dragons for a while. So are the dragons important because she can't control them?
I just really believe, like, the whole premise of why we're catching this world at this time, the whole Game of Worlds universe, like, why it is that we get to see this point in its history is because this is the point where magic is starting to come back into the world. It's like there was magic, it was prevalent, there were dragons all over the place, and then it all died out, and then centuries and centuries and centuries went by, and people kind of forgot about it, and that's why people didn't believe the White Walkers would ever come back. People didn't really believe in giants anymore, that kind of stuff. So the dragons are like symbolic of this point in time that the magic is coming back to this world. So I just can't imagine that they would let the dragon. I mean, I could imagine maybe one of them being killed and it being tragic, but I can't imagine all of them being, like, put to their death somehow.
Great question there.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And speaking of questions, we want more of them. Winteriscoming.net is the place to talk about all things Game of Thrones. You want to go there, you want to go to Entertainment Weekly, you want to let us know what you're thinking, again, with the hashtag WIC, because we want to continue not just this specific conversation, but all the conversation concerning Game of Thrones. But we are going to sort of jump to a different spot in the Game of Thrones world, not quite dealing with magic. We're going to jump over and we're going to check out Littlefinger and Sansa, because that was very interesting to me. Dark Sansa, but the specific thing that was interesting to me, the thing that I found so curious, was when they're riding away in the carriage, because obviously I'm skipping a little bit, but when they're riding away in the carriage, and he says, I'm going to take you somewhere where Cersei Lannister can't get her hands on, he says Sansa Stark, so is he referring to her or not, you know, but the idea of her, but it's just, I was like, but you're riding west, and we know that west is further inland, so where is he going that Cersei can't get her hands on
I mean, that's unlike so many other questions with that dude, you know?
I know, he's so fascinating to me.
But, well, go ahead.
No, you go. True. I was just going to say, I would love to know where they're going, what his plan is.
Well, it's funny because we kind of, this season, we're starting to see Varys's motivation, which, you know, is sort of, he's just sort of always been there for the good of the realm. But, you know, last year we started to hear a little bit about Littlefinger's motivation, which was when he told Sansa, I want everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And
but more specifically, he wanted her mom.
Yeah.
So are things gonna get creepy?
Yeah, and obviously he's kissed Sansa. Like obviously he wants it, right?
It's just this crazy. I mean, it is literally a Game of Thrones, and Littlefinger has some strategy involved that I don't know what it is because now he's left Robb and Aaron with Royce. And they're
dear sweet Robb and Aaron.
Dear sweet Robb and Aaron.
But he's pulled him away from his castle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
well, his mom's dead now. But like all I kept thinking about during that whole scene is that poor like actor, the kid, just like getting womped on the whole time and being like, I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Well, the question of what do they do now is also one that can be posed to the group that they pass on the road, which is of course Podrick and Brienne.
Oh, my favorite duo.
So, you know, we get a very short glimpse of them, but it was so exciting because they're kind of everybody's favorite in a way, you know? They're kind of the new Arya and the Hound, right?
Yes, exactly.
And they're sitting there and Podrick's like, look, we can go north, but...
And Brienne's like, what do you mean we?
Yeah.
You're on your own now, buddy. I've given up on everything.
And I want them just to get along. They need to have a convo. They need to sit down.
Podrick tries
be
so
real,
hard.
Have a convo, and then just
Podrick is just the sweetest thing ever.
But how cool would it be if they get to the wall where Jon Snow is at, and we see Podrick, and we see Brienne, and we see Jon Snow up there? That'd be pretty rad.
You think they're going to go all the way to the wall?
I don't know, but I'm just saying.
It would be great.
It'd be kind of cool.
It would be great.
Right?
To see the three of them together?
Well, because specific now, this is also kind of my really cheap segue into the wall with Jon Snow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Well, you know, hey, there you go, everybody.
Yeah.
You know, they can't all be gold. You know, I'm not a Lannister here. But we're
good one.
Another one. Right?
You get credit for that one.
There we go. So at the wall, I was very excited to see Jon Snow sparring with Ollie, who is the little boy from last season who killed Ygritte.
Yeah. Well, what I saw was Jon Snow taking out his anger in a way that he could on a 13-year-old kid or however old he is, you know?
Right. I personally like that scene a lot. And then Melisandre shows up.
First of all, I feel like Ollie's going to become a bigger part of this, right?
Probably.
Do we agree? Like,
they even gave him that great look at the end. Like,
I know,
he looks off at Jon Snow.
He's like, I got you, bro. He's like, damn it, actually, don't worry about it.
Well, we lost Gren and Pip last season, who were both, that was tough.
Pip
that was tough.
in the tunnel.
So maybe Ollie steps up. But in the meantime, Melisandre shows up. Yeah. Melisandre, by the way, is on screen for like such a short moment there. And I commented to you guys where I was like, how powerful is this character?
Yeah.
Because she's just there and you're just immediately drawn and she's
beautiful.
She's
but nothing good ever happens when she's on screen. You hate everything she does.
Jon Snow's also in trouble. Did we hear the
little,
Are
you a virgin?
Sweet, yeah.
Great, have a smoke baby with me.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, sweet, mate.
Yeah,
that's what she said.
So the most probably, I mean, the thing we're obviously building towards is that Stannis is there, and Stannis says, look, Jon, here's the deal. I got a plan. I'm gonna get all the wildlings on my side, which sounds crazy. But I need to do that. I need to do that because I need to be able to have an army, and in order to do that,
Winterfell back.
Exactly. I'm gonna get Mance to kneel.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do it, actually. I'm going to have you do it, Jon Snow.
Yeah. Right.
You convince Mance to kneel.
Sure.
So,
which, I mean, let's be honest. We all knew that wasn't going to happen.
That was going to be my question was, did you guys think...
I thought for a second when he was getting brought out to get burned that he might have done it. I'm like,
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I didn't think when Jon walked into the prison cell that he was being kept in, I was like, he's not going to convince Mance. You just know Mance is just a man of too many principles.
So what happened, guys? So what happens now? Now that Mance has just decided to die, talk about how we done later. But does that mean what happens to all the wildlings now? What is
That's
Stannis going to do?
That's a great question, and in fact, that question is also a fan question that we've had.
Is the fan Xavier?
A similar fan. Yeah. Oh, what
I
is this?
tweeted it.
Yeah, it says Xavier right here. No, this one is from Eugenio Calvo, and he is asking on Twitter.
My Twitter name.
What did that is your, yeah, exactly. He says, what did you think Stannis will do now with so few men?
Sure.
So the question is, now that we've lost Mance, and he does have so few men.
So he's assuming that he won't get the wildlings.
Exactly.
Here's the thought I had, because Mance wasn't super clear about why he wouldn't kneel. Like, I understood why he wouldn't, but when Jon was like, take your pride out of it, and he was like, you think this is about my pride? And I was like, okay, well, if it's not about your pride, then what is it about? I actually thought it had sort of the underlying current of Mance knew that if he died the way he did, then the wildlings could make their own decision, and it wouldn't be like they could still be wild. Not that it wouldn't be on his shoulders, but he would show like, look, make the decision about your own life, but if you choose to not kneel, this is what's going to happen to you. So it's almost like he took one for the team.
I think that ALISON is from north of the wall because...
I'm totally a wildling. Come on, guys.
Because Mance said, if you can't understand it, you know, there's nothing I can do to
And I was on the team where, no, I couldn't understand it. I was like,
you're totally from King's Landing.
Yeah, I was like...
With that hair?
Yeah.
I was like,
absolutely.
That gorgeous hair.
Absolutely from King's Landing. So Xavier, you mentioned this.
That's great. Good insight. Deep thinking.
Right?
There is the moment where that we build to in this, which is the last line that Mance says, the last line of the episode is, of course, I wish you luck in the wars to come, basically. And that's the name of the episode, is the wars to come. We've gone over all of these sort of wars and all these things happening, and now, I mean, Mance gets burned alive, except.
Boom.
God bless Jon Snow.
Jon Snow busts a cap.
I know. When I love
Bust
that
a medieval cap.
I love Jon Snow watching him burn, or watching him start to burn, and he gets this look on his face like, this is disgusting, and he storms off. And I actually had the thought, I was like, he's going to stick an arrow in him. He's going to put this guy out of his misery.
So you had that thought. Now Xavier, were you thinking?
In my head, I'm going, ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ting, tang, ding, bang.
Is this from like the Chipmunks movie?
Yeah, it just means I wasn't expecting that at all.
That is like the greatest reference you just pulled out right there.
As in, I wasn't thinking very intelligently, as intelligently as you.
But like, no one under the age of 25 is going to understand what the hell you meant by that.
That's fine.
Right?
I'm glad you did.
Fantastic. We keep it relevant here, guys. We keep it relevant.
As in, there wasn't much going on.
So specific.
Xavier just became my new favorite person right now.
But see, Xavier, I agree with you where it wasn't much going on to me, because I was just like, oh.
I was thinking, okay, like Snow's like, he's not gonna do anything about it, but he's gonna peace out and not watch it.
Yeah.
I did not think he was gonna.
I was like, Jon's gonna take care of
I didn't think that, because he's already under like. They're already suspicious that he's like too sentimental with the wildlings. So
but Jon's a rebel. He's never let this stop him.
But they're going to be well pissed that he did that.
Oh, absolutely. Right. But Jon, like, that's what I love about Jon. Like, when he sees something that's an injustice in any way, shape, or form, he does something about it, even if it's to his own detriment.
He acts on emotion, and that's why
he acts on emotion. Very similar, perhaps, to Jamie, but. Specific to Harry Potter. Your relevancy all over the place. So specifically, we have one more one more.
There are guests in our hearts.
One more comment from our fans out there, and this one does have to do with Jon Snow. It also has to do with a little girl named Arya.
Yeah, we didn't get to see her.
We didn't get to see her at all. But this specific question is from Stephanie on Twitter, and she asks, will Arya someday be queen? Will Jon Snow someday be king?
Ooh.
And I thought that this was fun because this is sort of, I don't know if it's a kingly moment, but it's certainly it certainly probably endears him to the wildlings shooting Mance and saving him from that fate.
Well, and I think it kind of ties back into his upbringing with Ned, how Ned was like, if you're going to kill a man, you do it yourself, and you don't make him suffer.
Sure.
And what he was seeing here was someone suffering, so what was the point of that?
Yeah.
You know?
I think that either of those two, I think anybody at this point could be on the throne.
I'd be shocked if, well, I'm interested about this question because it was, will Arya be queen and will Jon be king? I hope not together. Yeah. I think apparently they're related.
I would favor the latter. I think like Jon is becoming such a rebellious and like people are really getting behind him.
Right.
I mean, if one of those things had to happen, I would favor that way. But I mean,
I would see Arya, like if Arya was presented with being queen, she would bolt. like she would not want it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, I think that all of these questions have been great today. We want to get more questions in the future, in the coming weeks, because we're going to be here week after week doing season 5 of Game of Thrones after show. And I want to get some final thoughts from you guys before we sort of take this thing to its end.
Loved it.
So Xavier, yeah, that's it, right?
Loved it. I thought it was great, man. Like it was everything that I wanted. I can't think of anything else that I wanted to see. Like I think it just like carried on really well, and it steered in such an interesting direction. Like I want to go home and wonder what's going to happen, you know?
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. And Allison, you have some final thoughts, and I know you also have some shout outs for some more fans that we weren't able to get
I'll do some shout outs to people who wrote in, but we didn't actually have time to get to their questions. Grace Falula, Matt B, Josh H, Mike D, Amanda Kelly, Ralph Beavers, you have an amazing last name, and Chris M. Mancini. Thank you guys for writing in. My thoughts on this episode are, as soon as we just said we didn't see Arya, like I cannot wait to see where Arya is going. And this was like, this episode was such a great setup. It reminded me of characters I forgot about, like when Podrick came on screen. I was like, Podrick! I forgot how much I love Podrick. So I'm glad we're like back into it, and I'm glad that there's already stuff. You see the strife.
And she was on her way to Bravos, right?
Yeah, but
it's been a while, but like, they really spaced out the seasons. It's like it really gives you time to forget a lot of things.
You can get pregnant on the last episode and then have your child before the next season starts. That's how long they give you in between.
Speaking of having babies in Game of Thrones, that what is it? Cersei, and like the names from Game of Thrones are becoming really, really popular baby names.
Oh, really? I hope
like
no one actually names Cersei.
Yeah, Khaleesi is very popular. But we could absolutely talk about that for.
That's a whole
other episode. And
just want to throw it out there.
In fact, you can look for that episode or any of our episodes week after week. We will be here, as I mentioned, week after week. So check us out on winteriscoming.net, on Entertainment Weekly, and we are very, very excited to be here. We're very, very excited to talk more Game of Thrones with you. On behalf of myself, Allison, Xavier, on behalf of Fansided, Entertainment Weekly, and the Stream.TV, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah.